Hey, good morning, Patriots. I'm back. Yeah, it's been an action-packed few weeks. I know I'm not on the run. I've not been indicted, not that I know of, anyway. Anyway, no warrants. No warrant is a good warrant, right? That's what they say in the Smuggler's Blues. And yeah, I was down in the area where they used to film Miami Vice. Brought back a lot of memories, so it was kind of cool. Yes, and yes. Good morning, all. Get that there. And it's good to see you all. Well, I can't see you, but you can see me. It's all good, right? And so someone else who was seen when I wasn't seen was Chris Cordani. Good morning, Chris.
That's right. The backup catcher was in for a couple of days there.
That's right. So, and he wasn't. He's not. There's no warrants or indictments on Chris's head either. So it's all good, right?
We're hoping so.
We're hoping so.
Yes.
I was listening. I was listening to Sirius XM last night driving back. I got 2 hours of sleep. So, and I've been doing Newsmax all morning. I got to do Newsmax again when we're done here. Anyway, I was listening to Pop Goes the World. Do you know who did Pop Goes the World?
Oh yes, the great band Men Without Hats. That's when it's
That's
always a
right.
misnomer. That it's a lie that they're a one-hit wonder. That was a pretty big
I
hit
know.
here too.
I know. I was just thinking, it's like, oh yeah, Chris knows that guy, so we should talk to him sometime. Anyway,
Ivan's cool.
it's not just about Men Without Hats. It's about popping the world too. So speaking of popping the world, there's a lot of world popping going on right now, right, Chris?
There is quite a bit, and a lot of that's coming from Tulsi Gabbard. Remember,
Yeah.
there was an announcement in the middle of a cabinet meeting way back where Trump was assigning her to this task to find out what the heck is really going on, the wiretapping, the coup, the whole Russiagate thing, because we all know it was not only a hoax, but again, you and I know Dr. Jerome Corsi, who was brought in handcuffs with Roger Stone to try to sell out Donald Trump, sell out everything. He says they tried to get him to lie on the witness stand to say he has an association with Julian Assange. I think it was Julian Assange, who supposedly who was blamed for leaking the Clinton emails, when in fact you and I both know it was likely an inside job. But we can get into the details of that another time, right?
Yep. Seth Rich.
Yeah, not to
That's
be
why they
trusted.
killed him.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
So she was making the rounds on television this week and speaks about it. Let's see if I can find some of that for you.
Yeah. Well, while you're looking for it, yeah, go ahead. Here we go. Oh, there you go.
Oh, so you want to hear some? Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
That again, Russia leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bringing together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet. And the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I everybody's already talking about it. Yes, I have a lot of inside knowledge, so I'll share a lot of it as much as I can right now. So, the new disclosure I made yesterday on Newsmax was that John Kelly and Jim Mattis, John Kelly being the chief of staff of President Trump, and Jim Mattis being the Secretary of Defense, they were part of the coup as well. I think we're going to come to find that way more people were involved in this. And John Radcliffe, current director of CIA, was aware of all this too. And I'm kind of curious why he didn't say anything. I don't know. And then a guy named Marco Rubio. Did you hear? You've heard of Marco Rubio, right, Chris?
I believe I have. Yes.
He was in the Senate, and he wrote up that goofy. He was part of the goofy intelligence committee. Can I use the word goofy? I just did. And they came up with a report that said the Russians interfered with the election. The Senate did that, and that was during Trump's first term. So there's a lot more to this. Tulsi, and full disclosure, I know Tulsi. During the time this was all happening, I was on the Trump transition team. I was seeing this stuff from kind of the inside because I was advising Mike Pompeo and Joe Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So I was seeing this like, this doesn't make any sense. There's no intelligence supporting this. And my intel guys were saying, this is bullshit. Can I say that? I guess I can.
I think you did. I think you should. Maybe we should say bull dung. How about that?
Yeah, that too. No, Adam Schiff dung. Adam Schiff. Just,
ouch.
It's worse. Anyway, so what is going on now, I think, because you pointed it out, Chris, and the Patriots saw this too. President Trump, I think, has a roadmap he wants to follow here because he's flat out said Barack Obama, Satan's left testicle, is guilty of treason. So that's interesting that they're now using the T word for Barry. So I think there's some reason, and there have been criminal referrals from Tulsi based on what she's found to the Department of Justice. And let me remind the Patriots, and Chris, you heard it. You heard Barack Obama say, no one, to include the president, is above the law, right? Am I right about that?
Right. Nobody is. All of them said that. Pelosi.
We better see handcuffs.
Obama, Biden. They all.
We better see handcuffs.
Right. Yeah. But there's clause 83. You're.
Is this like catch-22?
No, it's clause 83. It's okay. In there. It's written in federal law. It's called except for Democrats.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
That's right.
So we'll see. And I know you're all fired up. I am too. And I reposted the Epoch Times. I know those guys. I trust them. They did a good job of kind of outlining it. There's a thing that I did with Jim Jordan and Tom Fitton on the Judicial Watch website where we kind of lay out what was going on. I don't have access to it this minute, but you guys can Google it. It's Judicial Watch, and we did a whole thing about 2018 when we figured this all out. I mean, people who can I say have half a brain? Chris, we have half a brain, right? At least half. Between two of us, that's a full brain, right?
Well, it depends on how the professor wired it today. That's another
story. But the bottom line is, we figured it out, and we figured out it was Colonel Mustard in the library with the chainsaw. So we figured out the caper, and the problem was this. The 51 intelligence officers, Brennan, Clapper, they were all with their minions going after Trump from the inside. Vindman, this was all orchestrated. This was all supposed to be a coup by the deep state to essentially either undermine or basically push out Trump. And if you recall during that time, Chris, and the Patriots, there was constant talk of the walls closing in on Donald Trump. Remember that? There's like a montage. The walls are closing in. Walls are closing in. And that was what they were trying to create, a perception that Trump was not legitimate and then have so many voices around Trump within the Trump administration. I was not one of those voices. I was one of those voices saying, what the F? There's no evidence of this. But there were voices near Trump saying maybe you ought to think about leaving, and I think that's what the game plan was, to kick him out, and to have Mike Pence, who I do believe was both part of the Mike Flynn effort to get rid of Mike, and the guy that would have benefited, that would have benefited most from Trump leaving. Right? Think about who would have benefited. Who benefits? Mike Pence. Mike Pence would have benefited. I think Mike was fully in on what was going on.
Yeah, Mike Pence tries to play himself as a saint, but he
no
does
saint.
have more ambition than a lot of people might
There
think
he
he
is.
does. That's right.
Yeah.
Although I liked race.
Yeah.
But as we figured, and that's what Tulsi Gabbard is saying, this man was behind most of it. And look, Democrats are all sore losers to the nth power. It gets worse every time they lose an election. But there was a collective screech when Nixon defeated the bottom of the bone pile candidate, Hubert H. Humphrey. Then you had the scream fest when they thought they had power again, thanks to Watergate and everything else. Carter drops the ball, and Reagan gets elected. Then, of course, the New York Times tried to lead the charge by saying this wasn't this inauguration was more of a coronation. It went on and on.
Yeah.
So Clinton wins, and they're all cheering.
Yeah. By the way,
George Bush was the biggest racist in the world for 8 years because he won the election, selected, not elected. They're sore losers.
So Universal 23, open the aperture of your mind.
Right.
Don't be thinking about Democrats only. Although we're razzing on Democrats right now, and there's Barry eating hot dogs. He likes those hot dogs, doesn't he? What's going on with that?
Yes, I reminded people on the chat here. If you actually look up Obama and hot dogs, you'll probably see more pictures
Chicago
of Obama devouring hot dogs than Biden devouring ice cream.
Yeah, they're big fans, and some of them like pizza too. I think there's a great picture of Jimmy Kimmel and Hillary Clinton eating pizza together, and that's and I'm serious. There's a picture of that. So just saying,
probably with a fork.
No, but anyway, back to the topic. So you Patriots, because I can't say everything I know. I know there are people who stood up on the Democrat side who helped stop it. That not all Democrats were rats. Can I say that? I can say that kind of rhymes, right? Not all Democrats were rats. That's kind of cool.
No, not every one of them.
Most were. Right. But most were. And Tulsi, by the way, Tulsi was like on the trail back when she was a Democrat. Just saying. I was meeting with her. Jim Woolsey and I used to meet with her, and we'd go through some of this stuff because it was like, there's something really wrong here. And the other thing to remember that I think it was September of 2016, Jake Sullivan tweeted out as part of the Hillary for America. And what exactly was she for America for? Nobody ever really answered that question. I don't think we have the time to answer it here, but it's something to ponder. Like, what was she for America for? What was, what was the, I think, is that called a dangling participle? I don't know. I speak English only like a non-native. So I'm just trying to, what was she for? Anyway, Jake Sullivan on her campaign account, there he is. There's Jake. Is he working at some Starbucks in Northeast DC now? I don't know.
I don't think he meets the dress code, so who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, so Jake Sullivan tweeted out that Donald Trump had his Trump Tower had direct contact with Alpha Bank in Russia. So what we're now finding, and this came out a little bit over the weekend, is that, not only was the Russia collusion narrative fed by Hillary, they were coordinating it. They were actually on the inside coordinating. That's where Mark Elias and those dirtbag lawyers come into this.
Yep.
Yeah,
that man is a filthy weasel.
That's why they had clearance. No, that's why they had security. They had top secret terminals at Perkins Coie. He was part of that firm at the time. They were part of this. They were like injecting stuff into the classified national security systems of the U.S. government. This is unheard of. So, to the point of the Patriots, if someone didn't go to jail about this, there's no hope for the country because you cannot leave this unaddressed. Right, Chris?
True. And a leading candidate to go to jail over this, Adam Schiff, one of the filthiest weasels we know.
Man, he's freaking out.
Yeah, he's freaking out terribly. And in fact, he took to the internet to try to convince people, no, nothing to see here.
So I literally just got off the plane, and of course,
read
all the about what just took place in the Oval Office. I can't think of a more shameful display by President of the United States in my lifetime. And when I think about all that the greatest generation did, the values that it fought for, when I think of what the country
yeah, okay, you don't even care,
has stood for, how we have defended democracy around the world, how we have come to the aid of our allies and friends, to see that all so shamefully betrayed is just heartbreaking. What will it take to awake the conscience of this country? Is this?
I think we're waking up.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. The conscience of the country has actually been woken up by the whole, by the blatancy of the deep state during the Otto Penn administration.
Yeah, and yeah, for those who are not following, I see a couple have figured it out. Ed Buck. If you know who Ed Buck is, that's a close friend of Adam Schiff, and they do all sorts of nasty things with people who are drugged. Just saying, it happens. So anyway, so that's God bless Tulsi. I think President Trump has a plan to continue to do this. I think you're going to see a lot more, and I think you're going to see some people who were close to Trump the first go round who were, I think, maybe on the indictment list too. Just saying. So it's going to be interesting.
Agreed. Let's see. What do we want to do? We should talk about Epstein, but I have to say on the entertainment side, Stephen Colbert. I don't call him Stephen Colbert, but Stephen Colbert because Colbert is too dignified for him. His late show was canceled. But this has been going for a long time. It had to come. Late night shows have died because two of these hosts, maybe Fallon's kind of silly and childish, but the other two actually fancied themselves political commentators and made themselves a one-sided fake comedy but political discussion show with basically two pseudo-intellectuals who think they're joking, but in fact they want to try to push their little agenda on the rest of America. Problem is, most people don't care about what these two have to say.
Well, let me break this down. So we saw Colbert. He's still on the air, unfortunately.
Until May 2026.
Yeah, it's like, that's a lot of pain. Anyway, Variety and other trade publications of the industry are saying the numbers aren't there to sustain it.
No.
The show costs over get this, Chris, $100 million a year to run. $100 million a year. Staff, studio, writers, and Colbert, whatever his name is, the cheese guy, gets paid $15 million a year to be stupid.
They're paying that much for writers? Oh my gosh.
No, he's paid 15. The show costs 100, and they're losing $40 million a year. So the numbers don't add up. If you're producing something and it costs $100 million to produce a year, and you're only bringing in 60, well, that means you're losing 40 million. That means you're putting out more than you're making. So that's why it got canceled, despite whatever these other people seem to be complaining about. It's not, and so the numbers are the numbers, right, Chris? I mean, it is an economic thing. So
right, but he's actually getting better ratings than Kimmel and Fallon. The thing is, I don't know how much they cost and how much money those shows are losing.
But who's doing better than all of them, right?
Well, Gutfield. Yes, Gutfield. There's a reason for that. There's a big reason for that. Yes, we know Gutfield is a political commentary show, but it's a comedy political commentary show. It was from the start, and it still is.
Right.
The
Right.
Late Show, the Tonight Show, and I guess the format of late night talk was never supposed to be that political.
Exactly.
Right. And yes, okay. I don't like presidents yucking it up on stage with talk show hosts. I think that's undignified. On the other hand, you have Colbert bringing in guests that are kind of like minor league hitters, but they're notorious newsmakers trying to push their side of the story when we know they're lying. I mean, he's had Letitia James on. He's had very recently Adam Schiff. Why would anybody care, aside from political news channels, just to hear what an interview with these two, especially late night when you're looking for maybe celebrities or a high profile politician who just yucks it up and they don't talk. They don't need to.
Well, that's the issue that
as much, right?
That he's bleeding viewership. That's why they made the decision. So it's kind of like, okay, because everybody wants investigations. Like, just go check out the trade publications. They'll tell you everything you need to know. They're on a downward trend, and they're not coming back. There's no way they're going to get it. And I think the folks at CBS, did Trump being elected have an impact? Of course. But they recognize that him being elected means they're going to continue to see audience loss. Like, nobody's going to watch this knucklehead slam Trump, every night of the week. So it is what it is. I don't think he was ever funny. He's not one of those guys I ever said, oh, that Steve guy's on. I got to go see that. I've never felt that way. But the other thing to remember that we're going to bring up NPR and PBS.
Right.
This was all in that constellation of ignorance, where it's all neutral. We're just talking about the public stuff. We're neutral. Colbert always pretended to be neutral. He's not. PBS, NPR, they're not neutral. And I've been taken aback by Karen Marr. She's really a Karen, but she goes by Catherine. Just saying.
Yes.
About local communities, rural communities are going to lose out. It's like, I'm a local official. I've never once been talked to by PBS. There she is, pleading. Did you know that you're not going to get weather warnings now because PBS is gone, even though they never gave them out before?
That's a complete lie. The national,
what?
Yeah. The national
those weather warnings, like, you never gave them out.
The
FCC, talking about?
The FCC requires, and I've been in this business for a long time. The FCC requires the National Emergency Services has to, or every station has to be connected to the National Emergency Service. And
that's true.
Anytime an emergency is announced, the interruption from the headquarters or local or regional headquarters, depending on if it's a weather situation or not, comes through, and it automatically this machine automatically interrupts broadcasts. Whether it be a scroll on television, a scroll on the bottom, but it has a signal. Then you read a scroll on the bottom, or radio. There will be an announcement, and they're also required to test the National Emergency Services.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is a lie from Catherine Marr. Another one, by the way. She has
a whopper.
I don't think she knows much about her own business. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think she knows about her own business. Local stations, maybe your local AMs could actually prosper from this, because now, if you want to talk about not getting the farm news or whatever else, these stations can step in and do their thing. You don't need to pay millions of dollars or have lots of taxpayer funds go into these NPR stations to do this. Usually, smaller stations do it with its skeleton crew. Maybe they can get more advertising revenue out of it.
Have you ever been to an NPR station?
I have. They're very nice. I've been to. I worked at
exactly.
The NPR stations are beautiful. They're nicely. What was it? They're nicely decorated. The studio's high tech. Look, I've worked with stations with small stations, and they do a lot with a little. I mean, that's my thing. I like to do a lot with a little.
I work with WMAL in DC, and they do a lot with East German Cold War era equipment. Just saying, I love WMAL. I mean, you all know I'm close to Chris Plant and other personalities in DC. Larry O'Connor and I are friends. Vince Colonnese, but
I like Vince.
You walk into WMAL. They have like 5 other organizations with them. They're all co-located. You got Westwood One has their studio co-located. My point is that their studios are like clustered, and they're cheap as hell. They are austere. That's right, Chris. I mean, private broadcasting, it's a bare bones operation for the most part. So when you walk into a PBS station and you're served, warm apple fritters. Oh, have an apple fritter with your flavored water
Nope.
in this luxurious. And I'm only halfway joking about that, but it's different.
Oh, I've brought people. Well, I've run the first station I ran was a very small one out of kind of a hole called the professional building. We used to call it the unprofessional building. One year it
Yeah,
didn't even have heat. We'd bring, yeah, I know they had the fritters, they'd have the whole spread and everything for a green room at the NPR station because they can
yeah,
afford that thanks to the taxpayers. We had
exactly.
a small reception room. We brought the likes of John Amos, Dr. Demento, high-ranking politicians into here. I believe I had Betsy. No, I did a live with Betsy McCoy at a different
Yeah,
nearby
yeah,
location, but but we had to bring them in with a small hole-in-the-wall reception area, and we just brought them coffee. We did what we could, but they were okay with
exactly.
it. Because what happens is it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what's inside a station. It's what you hear outside of the station.
Yeah,
So fine, NPR might have to get its own underwriting, more endowments, probably. That's fine, but they might not have to have those big fancy Manhattan studios anymore, or those big
well,
fancy city studios anymore.
it's not just that. I mean, part of if you listen, I listen to NPR because I'm a local official and I want to hear what the left is saying. So I listen to them when I'm driving around.
Always good for a few laughs.
Eh, Well, I tell you, people don't listen because when I'm driving, I'm rolling my eyes so much I'm running off the road. It's like I can't believe they said that. But my point being, for those who do listen, they have like high production value bumper music. Like between every news article, there's bumper music. Who does that? Who does that?
Well, and
Seriously, I
that's
mean
an
they do
NPR
that.
style. That's a blatant
Yeah,
it's a marketing tactic from them. But
yeah,
they can replace it with more royalty free stuff. Look,
yeah.
there are ways around all of that. But I do want to say that these people, the fact is, the reason why they're losing their taxpayer funding is because they have ignored the NPR and PBS over the last 30, 40, and arguably 50 years, has lost its way. It's not it's trying to influence the public rather than trying to be balanced and provide a service that other stations cannot. So let's hear Catherine Marr's little challenge, and I have Senator Kennedy after this, who and this
Let's
before we bring
hear
our
this.
guest in,
This is going to be
who
good.
took her
Oh
up on
yeah,
that challenge. Yes, so we'll do this
yeah,
back to back.
As far as
yeah.
the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom. As far as the accusations
No,
that we're
she doesn't.
biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because
Okay, so let's go to this. Senator Kennedy actually did this on the Senate floor.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media savvy attorney. They love Michael Avenatti. You know
He
where
was a
Michael
darling.
is
Oh yeah,
today?
former presidential
He's
candidate.
in jail. You know why? He's a crook.
I love this guy.
But for a while, he was a media darling on NPR.
He was.
Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music. I kid you not. American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist.
So I suppose rural stations can benefit from not seeing that.
Here's another headline from NPR. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin. Remember the Russiagate? The Steele dossier? NPR was right in there promoting it.
Oh yeah, right
It goes
there.
on. It goes on. But and we don't have to go all along. But I think everybody gets our drift. Anybody can Google any example. I found a bunch. Look at the ones earlier this year about South Africa. NPR, without evidence, tried to convince its readers that what Trump and Musk were saying about the genocide or the murders of white farmers was not true. They tried to
Right.
ignore "kill the boar," and they tried to they went along with the "I didn't do nothing" claim that President Ramaphosa was yammering about.
Well, and then that phrase you just used, without evidence, they say that constantly about President Trump. They never say it about anybody else. President Trump said today, without evidence, Vladimir Putin is taking Viagra.
Right.
What?
Yep.
Maybe he knows the man and he asked him. How do we know? But, instead of just reporting the news, they have to make an editorial comment without evidence. Marco Rubio was wearing lifts. Okay, maybe, could be. I don't know. But the bottom line is they don't report, they project. And they propaganda. So good riddance. What I am curious about, and let me ask you this, Chris, because you're a professional and you're a media guy. Do you think somebody on the left's going to come up with the money to keep them going?
I believe there is going to be somebody from the left who keeps it going. Look, they're making a lot of money already. They get plenty of endowments. They just need to downsize.
That's true.
They can now do whatever they want. It's not the taxpayers' dime that's funding it. This is a free country. Yeah. NPR, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, is free to advertise. Put commercials on. They can do whatever they wish. If they believe their product is going to sell, and it does, more power to them. If it doesn't sell, well, then they need to change their tune. They're allowed to have endowments. They're allowed to have their underwriting or advertising. And
they're nonprofits.
Some left-wingers,
sure.
Yep, some left-wingers and left-wing foundations will be putting money into this, but certainly not anything from USAID, and certainly Act Blue is going to have a little bit of a problem throwing money that way too. We can talk about that later on, but we do have a guest with us. Tyler Gray, star of SEAL Team, with a vampire in it, I believe. There's a vampire in that.
Hey, good morning, Tyler.
He's with us.
Morning, how are you?
Welcome to Wake Up Patriots.
Morning, how are you, sir? Let me adjust my frame. There we go. Okay. How are you, gentlemen?
Good morning.
Excellent. Thanks.
So we're going to talk about your book, Forged in Chaos, which I like that title.
Thank you. I was very, coming up with the title of something is always a struggle. So I was pretty happy when when I finally settled on this one.
Yeah. So is this a and I haven't read it yet because I just got the packet last night from the producer, right, Chris? Yeah. I think it was last night.
Yes. It's all good though.
So, but you and I were in Afghanistan in similar times. I was there in 2003 and 2004, and I saw in the press packet one of your pictures from 2002. Were you? So you were there with the SEALs or the Rangers or the? I must have been the SEALs because Delta wasn't there at the time.
Well, yeah, they were just not as. But I was a Ranger at that time. Yeah, I was a Ranger, actually a sniper team leader in Afghanistan. Deployed in spring of 2002. So we went from Anaconda to pushing out to the Pakistani border.
Gotcha. So I was on an air assault with Colonel Nixon and the Rangers. It's the opening of my book. As a matter of fact, my book Operation Dark Heart, which is there. The opening chapter is me going on an air assault because my guys were up with the Ranger recon team, and I had to go meet with them during an air assault. So it's kind of, I'm a military case officer, so it's like, I'd rather be sipping pina coladas in Puerto Rico than on an air assault, just saying. So it was an interesting experience. So
do you remember what battalion it was at that time?
I was working with the Ranger 2 and Colonel Nixon. And I'm trying to...
So that was probably when I was in 2nd Ranger Battalion. So it was probably when they went back for the what's it called? The push, the
Winter Strike.
That was my same.
Yeah, I was with McChrystal. Yeah. So and I'm trying to remember all the names, but I was actually with Colonel Nixon on the vehicle going out on the air assault, and then they put me on the Caesar bird, and we got into a small firefight. Little thing. Nobody really got hurt, thank God. But we had to go out, and Mo Morrison was the 2 at the time. He was a major. I was a major too, but I was there in alias. I was Chris Stryker, the guy with the porn star name. It was fun. Anyway, back to the story though. So let's talk about your book. So you've had an extensive experience. So how did you go from being a Ranger to working with the Navy SEALs? That's interesting.
Well, the SEALs was so I worked in I did Ranger Battalion, and then I went to the Special Missions Army Unit, and spent the rest of my career there. And then when I got blown up in Sadr City in Iraq, not Afghanistan, I got medically retired, and then I actually went and started working in Hollywood as a technical military advisor, and then
that's cool.
And then the SEAL stuff, I actually worked on a show called SEAL Team on CBS and Paramount Plus. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So that's how a lot of people. No matter how many times I say I wasn't a SEAL, people, I was on that show for 8 years. So it was interesting being an Army guy playing a SEAL on TV. So that was.
Well, that's okay. I got one of my good close friends is Carl Higbee, who was a SEAL, and he pretends to be smart, and he's on TV. No, just a joke. It's a joke, Carl. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Don't come kill me in the night. Just joking.
It was a fun chance to, SEAL Team was a show where, yes, it was called SEAL Team, obviously, but we, really told universal military stories through the conduit of a SEAL team. So that was a great experience, and one where we felt that we got to put out a lot of good storylines that really haven't been talked about, especially on network TV about the military.
Yeah. So, well, that's the thing. So one of the issues I have, since you and I share some kind of overlapping, probably some experiences, is that I find so much of the media, like I can't watch spy movies. I can't. Yeah. Because they're not realistic. And much of what I've seen of Special Operations Force things, there's a few shows that get it mostly right. But how do you deal with that as a guy who has to advise people? It's like, and I saw that on your thing you did Suicide Squad. So it's like, how do you deal with producers and directors who really don't want to do it the right way? How do you deal with that?
That's a good point. If you look at, so Suicide Squad's a great example. Suicide Squad was directed by David Ayer. A lot of people don't know that David Ayer is actually a Navy veteran. He was a submariner. He was on a submarine. So, when you're working with someone like him, you don't have that fight or that conflict, because he gets it, he understands, and so it makes it very easy. SEAL Team was as authentic as it was because the powers that be, from the executive producers all the way up to, quite frankly, the top of CBS at the time, allowed us to do it. Because at the end of the day, look, it's a Hollywood project, and they're going to do Hollywood things, and you can't get in the way of that. The best thing that you can do is insert as much authenticity into their process as you possibly can. And as you said, it requires, the leaders of that project to want to get it, right. And so I've had experiences like on SEAL Team where that's important to them. They want to get it right, and they let me do my thing. And then I've worked on other projects where, they don't know what they don't know, and they fight you at every corner, which is hard. It's hard for me because I know that you can do it just as easily, just as cheaply, but authentically. But a lot of people think that authenticity needs to cost money, time, and make the process more difficult. So it's a give and take, but at the end of the day, it requires, the Hollywood side to want to get it as authentic as possible, and then we're allowed to do that.
So one of my friends is Jack Carr. He did the Terminal List, and he's doing some other things, and I love Jack. Yeah. And he has the luxury of forcing people to follow his. Although they did change a few things on the Terminal List, I don't think Jack necessarily appreciated, but he was at least there advising. So I always appreciate attention to detail, because to your point, Tyler, I think real stories are as compelling, and sometimes even more like, I can't believe that can't really have happened like that, because it's like, there's things that I've done that I'd like to eventually maybe do something with that people would not believe. It's like, no, that didn't happen. That's no way. And but I think that's where Hollywood doesn't necessarily. I don't. I think there's a formula thing sometimes. So it's great that you went from combat to commerce. Essentially, you took what you knew and you were able to. And I consider what you do a form of education because so many people, I think, are still mystified by special operations forces, especially, but what it's like to be out there doing these hard things. Because we were joking earlier on Newsmax about being special operations, being special, and the physical fitness, the amount of judgment you have to have in that environment. Because people don't understand, Tyler, that when you're out there in these small units, you have a set of mission objectives and tasks, and you don't have the regimentation and the limitations, as far as I can tell, that standard line units have, like the submarine guy. Mm-hmm. Those guys like follow a book. You know, they know what to do. They kind of go up and down. They follow around. You guys have way more independence. So how did you find going from the Ranger safe to Delta? Because Delta, I know I used to work with the guys down at the compound. That's a lot of freedom, right? I mean, people need to understand you guys have a great deal of latitude to do the things you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of said it earlier, whenever I explain special operations, people always hear special operations and kind of make the jump to, special operations means elite. And I'm not saying it doesn't to a degree, but that's really a kind of a misnomer. As you know, what special operations really are is literally special. Every special operations unit was created for a special, specific job that fell outside the capabilities of conventional forces.
Right.
And so that, that specialized job, whatever it is, or that specialized mission, I should say, requires a specialized skill set. It requires specialized equipment. And most importantly, it requires specialized individuals with a specific mindset and specialized training and a specialized selection process that allows them essentially to be problem solvers within that special mission set. And so, for at that old unit, it was pretty. You go through the selection process, and a lot of people don't understand what it's designed for. They think it's designed.
I used to be one of the I used to be part of the Secret Army of Northern Virginia's ANS. Just saying. I was one of the role players. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to give up anything, but suffice to say, I think you'll back me up. It's a unique process, right?
It's a unique process that really, if you ultimately once you go through it, eventually you kind of realize what it's designed for. And my opinion of that is it's really designed to find people that can solve complex problems quickly, right, efficiently, and effectively with very little,
very little resource, very few
very little resources and very little oversight. And it basically says, hey, the problem is on you and you need to figure it out. And again, outside the box thinking is kind of a cliched term, but it really is a very conductive environment or a conducive environment to those types of outside the box problem solving. And for me, that's what I really loved about it, and that latitude that you said to get the mission accomplished with very little oversight was a pretty amazing opportunity and experience.
Yeah. So this leads us back to the title of your book regarding chaos. So to me, Tyler, so much of what happens in the real world, and I've worked at all levels. I've been in the Pentagon. I advised the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Joe Dunford, when Joe was chairman. People like you have to, like you point out, assess and figure things out pretty rapidly. So tell us about what motivated you to write the book and, the two big things. And don't give away the book, but what motivated you to write the book at this point, and what are two of the big takeaways that people should look for in the book?
Really, what motivated me to write it was, for years and years and years, I was being told, that the certain problems I was having was PTSD, and they just didn't fit my experience. And once I did, quite, over a decade of work and research, I came to figure out what the problems really were for myself. And then once I had found solutions to those and they started to work for me, then I absolutely knew at that point that I had to put all of this into a book and get that information out there, to hopefully, be a light in the dark for people who are in the dark right now, like I was for so many years.
Yeah. So, and tell us about that. I feel very blessed. I have not suffered from that. I have friends who do. How did you deal with the stresses? Because again, one of the things that I'm walking us up to is that when you have this level of freedom, you are essentially. And this is one of the. I'm a military case officer, and I'm always fascinated by the fact, Tyler, that they train us to be independent, to be essentially able to go out and do things others can't, and take on risk. One of the things we're taught to do is do risky things, dangerous things, and yet when we, it's hard to turn that off. It's hard to only have that thirst for danger and excitement when they tell you to do it. It's hard to turn it off in your personal life, right? I mean, things bleed over. And I think that's part of the challenge, right?
Yeah. I mean, a simple way to say it is that, ultimately, if you look at the, let's just say special operations or really combat arms, and let's throw in first responders in there, that is a fundamentally self-destructive job. If you look at what we were trying to do on SEAL team, we were trying to say, look, hey, does this job look cool? Yeah, it looks cool. Is it cool? Yes, it's cool. But that job, as cool as it is, it comes at a cost, and the cost is, the self-destruction that it'll cause to your personal life. And so, for me, it was, people have to understand that to do these jobs, they're done by people at some level, and I go into why in the book, but they're done by people that to some degree are fundamentally self-destructive. We chase that action, we chase that chaos, and we're somewhat addicted to it in a way, in a clinical sense. And so the we're okay as long as we have that chaos from the job. We're okay because that's what we're seeking. And we're okay with that handoff of self-destruction, for a price. The price is the adrenaline, the price is the chaos. And yet, when the job ends and you no longer have that outlet for chaos that you relied on for so long, we don't know what to do with ourselves in peace. And that's ultimately what the book is about.
So yeah, and that destructive behavior. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I get it. I mean, I look back on some of the stuff I pulled, even in sobriety, and man, I understand that we kind of, I think, get into that lifestyle, and you don't even recognize that maybe you ought to rethink some of the choices you're making regarding the risk you're taking on. So, I'm going to ask a little bit of a personal question. Do you feel that you've stepped back from that a little bit, or is Hollywood been a good outlet for those instincts, or how do you deal with it now?
Well, yeah, actually, so, the book is called Fortune and Chaos because what it's ultimately about is, I realized that the vast majority of veterans and first responders. So look at PTSD. The first word of PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And what I found out is that post-traumatic stress disorder assumes a pre-traumatic stress baseline. And for myself and the vast majority of others, I'm going to bet that you grew up in a very chaotic childhood environment. And what I found is all of us have that same chaotic childhood. And again, I'm using the word chaos, not trauma, because trauma is
I think it's a good choice.
It's a very subjective term, right? It's like, and some people go, "Oh, I didn't have a traumatic childhood. I had a great childhood. My parents loved me. They were great. They didn't divorce." And I was talking to this guy, and I said, "Did you move a lot as a kid?" "Oh yeah, we moved every 6 months." And I go, "Well, there you go. That's chaos, right?" And the whole difference between chaos and trauma is that we look at our childhoods now as adults and go, "Oh yeah, that wasn't traumatic." And it wouldn't be traumatic to an adult, but like moving every 6 months is absolutely unquestionably traumatic to a child. And so when I kind of put this together, that we all have this same fundamentally chaotic childhood, what I realized is we can't have traditional PTSD because we never had a pre-traumatic stress baseline. We
That's
were
a great point.
We were forged in chaos. We've never known safety. We've never known
excellent point.
We've never known a non-traumatic stress baseline. And so the concept that I came up with to explain how I felt, and you're probably going to understand it because every veteran I talk to does, is I don't have PTSD. I have LTSD. I was forged in chaos. Therefore, I have lack of traumatic stress disorder. Chaos in the environment is what I grew up in. Therefore, that became my homeostasis. That's my normal. Chaos in the environment, calm in my mind. Calm in the environment, now it's chaos in my mind. I'm anxious. I feel really nervous. I'm expecting the chaos to happen again. So how do I calm myself to get me back to my baseline? Simple. I create chaos in the environment. And once it's back there, I'm back to calm because that's what I'm used to.
This is great. Yeah. Wow.
I just told you, I've told hundreds of veterans, every single one hears it and goes, yes, that's my experience.
You're right.
Boom. Nail on the head. And again, not to, be a turd here, but how did I come up with this now? You know what I mean? How has this not been, put out there? We've just been told, just think of it this way with PTSD. PTSD has absolutely nothing to do with the military or veterans or combat. Anyone in the world could have PTSD for damn near anything. And so if that's a fact, then why are we being told that it's our specific one problem? And the reason that, you've got PTSD awareness and PTSD treatment options at an all-time high. And yet the problem is not getting better, it's getting worse. And the reason I think it is because the disease, what we're being told is the core disease is really just the symptom, and we've misdiagnosed the core disease. And so this book is to try and put out there the different aspects of what I think the real problems we're experiencing in this community are, shine a light on them through myself, and then hopefully provide solutions that can help people actually recover and not just put them on medications for life.
Yeah, no, I'm going to track your book down because I like the concept. And yeah, I'm a disabled veteran, like many are. I was going through my veterans assessment about 5 years ago, and the doctor said most of what we do is put people on drugs, and that's the wrong answer. I think you just numb the symptoms. You don't get to the root causes. But I think you're right about the root cause. And by the way, thinking back on my own kind of development, I actually my dad was in the Air Force. I went to high school in Lisbon, Portugal, and I was bartending for the Marine Guard. And I'm not joking, at 14. And so I had a very wild existence in high school where there's no drinking age and doing all sorts of things. And to your point, it's like, I got used to the drama and chaos. And my parents and I didn't get along. So I was like, just go do what I want. And I think once you get used to that, you crave it. And then if it's absent, like everything's good, it's like, hey, something's wrong. Things are quiet.
100%. So if you look at when things are calm, that the reason you have that anxiety and that fear is because, like for me as a kid, my dad was an alcoholic, that whole thing. So when things were chaotic so often that when they happened to be calm, my nervous system as a child was going, okay, he's going to get home in any minute and everything's going to explode again, right? And so when you're worried about the chaos coming in that you don't really know and you don't predict, you create it because that gives you some feeling of safety and control over it, right? And it's like, again, when guys are getting out of the military or being first responders and they're creating chaos, right now somebody creates chaos and they buy a motorcycle and ride it 120 miles an hour, right? Whatever it is, we're right now told, oh, that guy's got PTSD, he's crazy.
Yeah.
And the reality is they're not crazy. They're simply, it's a cause and effect, an action and a reaction. And we're just trying to get our brains and our nervous systems back to our homeostasis. It's a very, very, very predictable set of actions. For me, you talked about Hollywood. What helped me is Hollywood on set is absolute chaos. And that's my jam. I'm very relaxed on set. I directed episodes and I was just, built for that. I was forged in chaos. So it was very easy for me to do. And so for me, what has helped me dramatically, and I think what I present in the book is, once you understand why you're doing what you're doing and you understand the mechanisms in place and, you're trying to calm yourself, once you get it, you go, okay, I still need that chaos, but maybe I can choose healthier chaos. Maybe I can choose, this job that's kind of chaos rather than, drinking and driving, buying a motorcycle, causing fights with significant others, whatever it is. And once I understood, again, the why, then it gave me some level of awareness and it allowed me to make better choices, and it really improved the quality of my life and those around me.
Tyler, you've convinced me to buy your book. This is great. No, I'm serious. And the Patriots love you. And I think this is such an excellent framing because, and I'm going to ask you one last question. We got a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
They still need people like us though, right? I mean, I understand what you're saying. The framing is correct, but you still have to have people who are willing to take on the chaos and put the uniform on or go undercover, depending on one's flavor, and do those hard things. We still need people like us, right? I mean, you still need us as a resource.
100%. I mean, part of the thing that we say in the book is, nowadays we live in a society that unfortunately sees, just think of it this way, for all of human history, the warrior class has been revered as such an integral and important part of society. And it's only in relatively recent times that society, unfortunately, but I get it, it's just, regular society now is so sterile and safe that unfortunately the, many parts of society now view the warrior class as unnecessary. And, how we see a person,
okay, until they start wars.
Exactly.
Well,
we see people like, that are singers or actresses, performers and artists, and people go, oh, they were born to do this, they were born to do that. And yet, do we look at like kids and go, that kid was born to be a warrior? No, it's just something, but we used to. And so absolutely the irony that's kind of presented in the book is that this chaos in childhood, it's not necessarily good in a way, but at the same time, it is currently the mechanism in today's society, which is forging the warrior class and creating the protector class that is allowing these jobs to be filled because it requires somebody that is common chaos to do it.
Yeah. So a quick personal note on that very fact. So my son is 30 years old. He's a fireman and medic in Arlington, went through Eagle Scouts, first responder. I always worry about him, Tyler, because he's the kind of kid who's going to run into the building and rescue somebody because he's that kind of guy. But that's my point, is that he's a minority in the current generation because most of his peers are all soft and pasty and look like a pizza, bunch of dough because they haven't suffered. And I would argue, I hope you'll come back and join us again for a discussion on suffering.
Yeah.
Suffering's a good thing. I think you'd have to admit you suffered a lot to get to where you're at, right?
Suffering. I honestly, this is going to sound a little weird, but I honestly feel I honestly feel bad for people who have not suffered because it's that, discomfort is growth, and the level of discomfort, the level of suffering is directly proportional to the amount of growth. And the more you suffer, the more you grow. And luckily, we have people, like us. The reality is, I believe the warrior class will always create the warrior class. That's how it's always been. We couldn't, help it if we tried. And so one thing I want to add with that, people look at like Gen Z and go, oh, Gen Z is the worst generation ever, blah, blah, blah. And remember how bad recruiting was under the last administration?
Horrible. Oh, yeah. Horrid.
And everyone said, oh, it's because of Gen Z, blah, blah. But that's not true, because once the administration changed, recruiting went through the roof. And I'm not saying, generations don't have certain, issues or qualities, but I can say this: Gen Z, once the administration changed, a ton of kids from Gen Z signed up to stand on the wall. And I don't think we have a generational issue as much as we had an administration issue. I wouldn't have wanted to join then either. So I would have, but
no, I know what you're saying. No, I've got an 18-year-old. I'm trying to now, maybe I ought to rethink it now that, and I know Pete Hagstedt and I are friends, and I think Pete brought the right tone. And I know there's a lot of criticism because he's younger. He's never been a corporate guy. It's like, no, he wrote a book on trying to get warrior ethos back, and he's doing that. So, Tyler, man, what a great discussion. The Patriots love you. We love you. I'm going to track your book down. I'd really like to have you come back for a discussion on suffering. You'll suffer with us, right?
That'll work. I like that.
Yeah. And to your point, you mentioned Pete Hegseth, like this LTSD concept is something I'm trying to get out there, because once people understand what it is, it can completely reframe the conversation on how we treat veteran and first responder issues.
Yeah.
And it's just an approach that we haven't taken yet. And I'm trying to get the word out there to hopefully change the narrative to be able to help people.
Excellent. Well, Tyler Gray, the book Forged in Chaos, based on I haven't read the book yet, but I am. Man, I think the framing is correct based on my own personal experience of having been out there on the pointy end of things for the better. But man, Tyler, what a great conversation. Thank you for being here. Good luck with the book. We'll continue to promote it. And I really would like to have you come back and talk in a little bit more detail about why it's important to accept the fact that, growth is painful. Suffering is painful, but you come out on the other end, you're better for it. You understand. As a very young lieutenant, I used to look at some of the nonsense when I went through spy school. It's like, why are they making us do that? But I look back now, it's like, oh, I get it now. And I think it takes a certain level of wisdom to understand why it's important. So,
yeah, there's a lot of that. I think when you go through training, you don't get it. And then years later, you look back and go, oh, okay. So, yeah, there's some good process in there. Anytime you want me back, let me know. I'd love to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you for being on with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you. So, Patriots, we're over time, and that's it today. Wow, what a great show. We're going to have Tyler back if he's willing to come back. I think that was a great discussion. And for the record, he's framing it correctly. I mean, we all get into the business because we kind of have, for them, it's chaos. For us spies, it's ambiguity. We enjoy gray, the ambiguity of things. It's very similar. Just the amount of violence varies a little bit, but not much. But that's a great book. So run out and buy the book. Yes, go ahead, Chris.
That's why I'm not a big fan of a draft. If you think about it, you have draft people who probably shouldn't be on the field in the first place, and you put them there, and they can't operate like some of the others. They'll drag people behind. It's not exactly the best solution. Having said that, it would be interesting to see how a better trained armed services leadership personnel, if you will, know how to find people who can operate in such a situation as years move on. So that's interesting.
All right. We got to go. I got to go. I'll be on Newsmax 2 at 11, I think. Cool. I got to go check the schedule. with with the whatever that new show is. Anyway, I'll figure it out. No, it's like it's chaos. Hey, chaos!
See, you operate well there. Perfect. That's what they should put us on. Maybe that's what they should have put us on.
That's right. So we'll see you all tomorrow. So have a good afternoon and evening, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Perfect.